Picks up more dirt than any other canister, period. Hey, welcome to Performance Reviews, where I give you the review from the technician's point of view. And today we're going to be doing another retrospective review on the Hoover, particularly this Hoover, the Windtunnel Canister. And this is got many names and many colors. At some point in the 90s, Hoover / Maytag, I believe it was Hoover right during the transitional period to Maytag. I could be wrong. This could have been a Hoover product right before Maytag took it over. Either way, this was kind of their last stitch bagged canister before TTI would take over the show and make the Platinum line and some of the other ones that were to come, and some of the rebrandings as well. So this machine is in fabulous condition, and a big thank you to our Aunt Sylvia, who loaned me this machine to do this video. I don't actually own this machine, though I wish I did, because it's in fabulous condition. Usually these are quite, well, messed up at this point. This one's a 2002. Again, these were made in all sorts of colors and shapes and sizes. And these ones were made in iMac colors. This came in a clear green, a clear blue, like you see here. And there is also a clear orange that I am aware of. There might have also been a few other colors. Let's talk a little bit about this. So let's first kind of look on the back. It is made in the United States. That's right. This plastic canister was made in the United States, though with globally outsourced components. This was at the time where, you know, switches and things were starting to move to Mexico. This is, of course, unfortunately, before they moved to China. I talk a lot about the history of Hoover in a lot of my videos because it's important when we're looking at some of these things, especially considering the reason the Hoover name is around is because TTI bought the name and saved the company. And it's an interesting story. This is kind of the start of the dark years, you know, when this was made. This isn't a bad vacuum by any means. This was like their top of the line. You know, you had a bag check indicator. You had, you know, your on and off for your carpet floor switch. You have a gas pump handle. No swivel here. Oddly enough, only a half swivel here. And then it's not direct connect. It's got a pigtail. Everything has a two-pronged pigtail. Originally, this would have been made with a three-pronged pigtail. They changed the wiring. They changed a lot of things over the years on these. There were controls available at the handle at one point, and then those were engineered out. So let's talk about. So first off, one of the things that makes this in great condition is this cover. These covers would break when these were brand new. So this is rare to see in this condition. And this cover houses a turbo brush. And the original versions, this cover would be flush. Again, this is kind of the last one where they would try to feature-rich the machine up by putting a turbo brush and some of the more modern features consumers would expect, especially since during this time period you could get a Kenmore, which objectively was probably a better machine. This is also the time where we saw Miele really grab a hold of the American high-end market. So this is really at a time where there were a lot of good vacuums to choose from. So right here, if you look right here, there is a filler where there was once an indicator light. The dusting brush, upholstery tool, crevice tool are basically porta-power tools. Same with the floor tool. Now, I'm going to leave the dusting brush off, and I want to show you a weird feature of the machine. I thought this was weird since the first time I saw this. This is the exhaust filter. This little, I mean, this is not really adequate. This is moving a lot more air. And this is really was to catch the motor carbons was the idea. This is not an allergen filter. And this would slide right here. And it actually is interacting with the cord reel. Is what holds that in place. And then the machine is randomly exhaust out the side here. Now, you see some dust here. I actually did wash this machine prior to filming this and take it apart. There is a maintenance/repair video up for our Patreon supporters right now. And if you're not familiar with our Patreon, that's kind of how we get money to fund the channel, fund things like this, and do stuff. So one of the things, and the reason I washed this out is, originally this machine would not have come with the bags we see in here. It would have come with just a one-layer paper bag or a 2-layer paper bag. This machine is new enough, it would have had the 2-layer paper bag, but those were not widely available in stores, so most people ended up running 1-layer bags in these, which trashed the machines. So there's a matching clear tab here, and the only part that is actually iMatte clear is the bag cover. Everything else is a blue. The blue on here, there were some other things available at the time in this blue. Comment below, I'm sure somebody knows. And it says 100% of dust mites. That was a big thing. There's no HEPA filter mentioned here, even though HEPA filtration had become a standard that was around. It wasn't on every vacuum yet, but it was around. And this is also at the period of when we saw bagless vacuums start to really rise in the market because, again, paper bags and the synthetic bags, we wouldn't see the synthetic bags to, I want to say it was like maybe 2003, 2004. Shortly after this was discontinued is when we started seeing the synthetic bags. So I've got a synthetic bag in here, and Hoover actually made a HEPA bag in the S bag, not for this particular machine, but it's compatible. So I'm running a HEPA bag, and you notice there's a gasket on here. The original vacuum would not have come with a gasket. It was just cardboard, and it relied on a rubber donut under here. And then there's a pre-motor filter right here. And that's what you got. You didn't get really anything more than that. What I do like about this, let's just put that back, is it tells you it takes an S bag right there. Everything is very clearly marked on Hoovers of this period. I really like. Now, you can shut this without a bag in place. This thing does flex, but it's more to aid your ability to put the bag in. It has nothing to do with trying to keep you from using it without a bag. And there's also a warning. I don't know how it's going to show up on camera, but it says right here, basically to tuck. Let's see if we can. Basically tells you to tuck in the bag right there. So we've tucked in the bag, and we'll do that. Now, your on-off switch is here, your cord rewind is here. On the back, I think it's worth noting some of the features on the back. So you have these nice, sturdy reinforcements. So if it's on really thick carpet and this caster sinks, there's still something there. And likewise, it has a little bit of rigidity. This just has two big wheels that have never moved right. The power nozzle actually has parking here. So there's actually parking on this. Has modern parking style right there. So that's kind of cool that, you know, during the time this was made, there was modern parking. So that means it stores compactly. Talk a little bit about the power head while we're here. Let's talk about the wand, because I always thought this was really weird. So on some Hoovers, there'll be a suction relief here, but most of them, yeah, you just had this thing you opened, and it's just really kind of weird. And then everything just kind of locks in place. Nothing like positively clicks or anything. And, all right, there are still gaskets in between the wands at this point. At some point, Hoover would stop putting those in with these wands. At some point, I think in the Porta Power's life cycle, which I think you could still buy today. This also has their patented wind tunnel technology, which was a big deal back then. And what that meant is there was this extra little piece that basically allowed the machine to suck from the front and the back of the brush roller chamber. It also enabled a little bit of edge cleaning on the side here. Now, these brush rollers do not have sealed ball bearings. They have open bearings that need to be greased, just like a Hoover convertible or anything else of this time. This has the original brush roller in it, which is, it's rare. Just everything is rare. Everything is here, pretty much. So if I had a manual in a box, this would be really just as complete as it gets. So really a nice example. And again, you do have a pigtail that has to be plugged in right here. So let's go test the suction and see how it does. Hoover doesn't use a standard size, at least on this version of Hoover, I guess I should say. At the time, they were not using a standard size fitting, so I've kind of rigged an adapter up the best I can. So we're getting about 65 inches of sealed vacuum and about 39, 38 inches of working vacuum. Which for the time, there were machines like Filter Queen, Miele, Rainbow that were getting upper 70s, 80s in terms of sealed vacuum. So these numbers were not class leading for the time, but they were more than acceptable. This is definitely a little bit more than some of the Electroluxes and stuff of the time. However, we are going to use the studio microphone, so you're going to get to hear the real sound of this bad boy run. Now, fair warning, I didn't grease the bearings, I just lubricated the rear bearing like I would any other Hoover that would come in a store that I worked at. I think the bearings probably need to be fully re-lubricated on this machine, but it really doesn't sound that different than I remember it sounding. Let's do a carpet pickup test, and if you're new to performance reviews, we got breakfast cereal, flour, cat litter, and fresh pet hair. Let's see how the Hoover does. Alright, got a bit of flour. Ooh, that just like worked in cat litter. Yeah, a bunch of cat litter. So no pet hair here, let's see. Okay, no pet hair. And of course the breakfast cereal, well, there was like a little loose piece, but so it did kind of in the middle of what we've done and seen here on the channel. It's not the greatest. It's definitely not the worst. Definitely beats the Musu or something like that. So yeah, and that's how it does on my soft carpet. You know, one thing I'm really surprised with is this thing pushes really, really well on my soft carpet. The head floats. I mean, this is just, it just glides. I was really surprised. I thought this was going to bog down not having a height adjustment. So whatever they did there, they sure did that right. So yeah, it's got quite a bit of wind down, but it's doing all right. One thing I want to mention, all that plastic reeking 15 years ago when I was fixing these, 16 years, wow, time flies. Back when I was fixing these, however many years ago that was normal. This play, absolutely normal, this slop. And it's pretty bad. The power head play, it's always been bad. And there's no swivel neck. That is such a peculiar thing, is there's no swivel neck. Because some of the other nozzles, we've got a few nozzles here. Let's talk about that real quick. Some of the other nozzles, they would have a half turn like this, where this doesn't have that. No half turn. And what they were focused on with this nozzle was looking good on paper. One of the things to make it look good on paper is they had a slightly wider nozzle than anybody else on the market at the time. And I think the real reason they did that was not even to look good on paper. They wanted to share this brush roller with an upright. That was a way to cut down on manufacturing. So I want to discuss something. Even though the suction path looks like it's in the middle of this head, it's really not. Because of the quote-unquote wind tunnel technology, all the suction's over to one side. And as you can see on this side, which has the belt on it, it leaves quite a bit behind. I hope that's showing on camera because it really shows up when you're using it. You know, one thing I'm extremely curious about is its hard floor pickup, because I really only use these on the bench. So we're going to do a hard floor pickup and see how it is. And if you're new to the channel, it's breakfast cereal, cat litter, flour, and fresh pet hair. And we're going to do, we're going to use the power head, and then we're going to use the included floor tool and see which does better. Okay, so the first thing I noticed is that there's flour, a little bit of flour, not much flour, but the pet hair and the cat litter did just great with the included hard floor tool, but most of it got stuck in the bristles. Now, the power head, on the other hand, which I turned the brush off, and I just it spread cat litter in a few places. It missed, you can see, oh man, it missed the majority of almost the majority of the flour, like half the flour there. And then, gosh, I set the camera up kind of wrong for this, I apologize. But there's some cat litter and stuff. And again, until the brush goes on, it's not going to suck the stuff up. You can see the hair just got caught in all the nooks and crannies. And this kind of explains why on the bench these would be so packed full of stuff when I would repair it. All of this has been explained just by using it. And that's where I say, from the technician's point of view, it's important, but using it around the house and stuff is just even more important. Yeah, there's like flour back here from this tool. Hard floor cleaning, not really its thing. Well, I think it's time for some stair cleaning, and I've got the studio microphone on still because I want you to hear this. Well, that's sketchy business. Let's do some stair cleaning. Well, it actually does a decent job stair cleaning, but you can't, while this tool locks in place, you can't really rotate it. Again, there's no swivel in the hose, so you'll be damn lucky if you don't accidentally throw this thing down the stairs while you're using it. I don't know. And then I think this is fine. So if you want to get to the stair tool, it can't be on the stairs. You can't actually open this while it's on the stairs, like so. Yeah, that's pretty, it's kind of bad. Bad design. Now I want to talk about something, because this plagues this canister, and it really plagues Hoover canisters going back to the 60s. For some reason, they never put a real locking device in here, in any of these. Every one I've ever taken in for repair, this sort of thing becomes Humpty Dumpty. There is no locking device, and it is so much more awkward than a modern canister. I mean, I got a Mila standing right here. I mean, this guy is so much more steady than this guy. It's ridiculous. Cord length on this thing is like ridiculously long. It's a little over 30 feet. So one thing I think was pretty good for the time is it had a push button cord rewind. A lot of them had that cord where you had to like yank on it and hope that it would release. So there's a push button cord rewind. Though the cord winder isn't strong now, it really wasn't that strong then, but age hasn't done it any justice. And again, I've been in here and I've lubricated it and cleaned it and gave it one more wrap in there. It's still just not great, but at least it's a push button. Well, I sure hope you've enjoyed this retrospective and this look into the Windtunnel canister, something from the past, and you know, I don't think the market is really going to miss one more awkward canister, but you know, it's certainly been interesting these past few days playing around with this and shooting this. It really reminds me of what used to be considered acceptable in terms of vacuum cleaners. And I still think this probably out cleans a lot of the bagless junk we see today as far as, like, you know, grooming carpet and stuff, but I don't think it really deep cleans quite as well as some of the people online would make you think. So anyways, that's my opinion. That's my thoughts on the Windtunnel canister. Again, big thank you to Aunt Sylvia for letting us borrow this. This is really a cool machine and is basically museum worthy in terms of its condition. So I'm happy to have it. Check out our Patreon if you want to see the insides of it. I have a video up on there. Maybe that will go on the main channel. Maybe it won't. Repair videos these days just don't do very well. So anyways, thanks for watching, folks. Have yourself a wonderful day.